Ok, Natanaku Gyayu Kasakumi. Everybody else knows me as Keisha. It's the one and only. Anyways, I'm not the one and only, and I'm certainly not special. I'm special in my own way, just like you. However, I just got back from a trip, and it was a very important, I will just say a pilgrimage. It feels like a pilgrimage. I feel like I've been through a spiritual hazing. So this came about from a request to support a brother of mine who had been asked as a mover and shaker in the early Aboriginal in AIDS days, basically. And I agreed to be a support. I was not chosen by the advisory committee to be a part of this, but because of my support as well as my standing in the community as really one of the original females to actually be mover and shaker, boots on the floor. That's me, as well as other women that are not HIV positive, but absolutely have every right to have their boots on the floor and be acknowledged. Not as a person living with HIV, but as an accomplice, as somebody equal. Not everybody works this way. And I've learned from moving through non-governmental organizations how they work. They can work beautifully if you have the right people there, especially volunteers who have lived experience and can actively engage support. If you have support in your mandate, you always have to follow your mandate. So if your mandate is to just provide education about a specific topic, you stay in your lane and that's what you do well. Unfortunately, there are, I'll just say, corporations that are trying to be the end all and be all, as well as telling the story that they were the end all and be all for us in the early AIDS days when there were no organizations. There was no funding for HIV and AIDS. So I'm not really sure whose archives and history that we're talking about. And this is something we really need to be serious about, is telling the truth. People will actually deny the fact that it was a man who stood up as my ally, as my brother, and said, what about the women and children? There is another gentleman out there who has a higher platform and will claim to say that. That is not the truth. So that's why you need to have people like me there, because storytelling is so integral into our history and culture. And if you can't take what the OGs say, then there's a narrative going on that needs to be uncovered. So what's the agenda, right? And you always have to ask these questions before you go into anything, because 9 out of 10 times it can change like that. If you have an organization or a corporation set on misunderstanding, misrepresenting, and misappropriating the Indigenous AIDS movement, we have a problem, Houston. We have a problem, Mother Earth. We have a problem, Creator, because our humble beings that we are supposed to be is not being practiced at all. And this worries me, because the government believes that if you dress up in a ribbon skirt and you openly acknowledge territory and you say the words in your name, that you are somehow sacred, you must be believed, you are accountable to your community, when you could be dressed up as a pretend Indian who's actually a pedophile. Think about that.